Hi, everyone. We're live, and I have a really super special guest today. Someone I've admired since she was a wee nurse in 2017. Julia Harbuck Valley hails from Shure Healthcare down in Pigeon, Michigan, we like to say. And she is the quality manager there, but has held a lot of roles, most specifically as part of the Sure Way,
Mhm.
their Compass team, the steering team. You have been an important voice for that team for a really long time. So welcome, Julia.
Thank you, Jane. I'm really excited.
Yes. So today, she and I are going to talk about well-being, and most specifically, well-being as a strategy for leaders. And one of the things that not everybody knows about Capstone Leadership Solutions is, now well-being, resiliency, a leader's resiliency, stopping burnout. I mean, every single day, you probably notice this too. We're opening up emails from great reputable companies, Gallup, Harvard Business Review, about how to stem the arterial bleed of leaders from healthcare and causing them to be burnout. But by the same token, we've been, having well-being as part of our leadership bundle. I'm very proud to say since the inception of our company 10 years ago. And unfortunately, Sue and I made a very conscious effort to do that because we suffered from burnout ourselves.
Mhm.
So it is unfortunate that we had to go through that that horrible part of our lives in order for something great to come out of it. But as always, our partners have taken our evidence and best practice and made it theirs and made it better. The case method, copy and steal everything. So that's why I want to talk with you today, Julia. You are the peer champion
Mhm.
for the well-being and resiliency leadership tactic in your leadership bundle. So what does that entail? Like, what do you do on a quarterly, monthly basis for your leaders?
So, for being a peer champion, it's something I think I kind of fell into. I actually was nominated for it while I was in my infection prevention role during the pandemic. So, I was like, oh, great. This
Let's see, who's at most risk for burnout? Oh, Julia. Okay. So let's just
Th-
go for
th-
you.
this feels great, but I was really talking about the concept of resiliency and leadership training prior to the pandemic. So I was very familiar with it, felt good about it. And obviously, I had to practice it to survive a pandemic, right?
Right.
So here I am. I fell into that role. I have it. So I do resiliency or well being. We don't really say resiliency anymore.
No, it's on the
It's
table.
heavy.
Yeah.
It's too heavy of a word. So we're going to use well-being. But I present at our leadership training avenues that we have. Usually those are every 6 months or so. It just depends. But then we also have monthly leadership meetings. Right now, those are all virtual. And so we'll always pick a champion that talks about a topic. So 1 month it might be me to focus on well-being for the leadership team.
Perfect. And you were talking about how, early in the pandemic, you would do stretching or movement, but you were always on every agenda, which we do recommend because that's one of those things. Well-being is different for every human, right? And so you have to start where people are. So how, out of 40 leaders, how do you start where everybody is? But you talked about this past quarterly leadership training in April that you did. Tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, so April was fabulous. So again, I have been presenting for about 5 years now on the topic of well-being overall. And April was different. The leaders were engaged more than I've ever seen before. And again, they're familiar with this topic. But what was different, I think, is during the pandemic, we had all of this focus on our frontline staff. We need to take care of our frontline staff. The world's on fire, healthcare is on fire. We have to make sure we protect them, that they're not getting burnt out. And what was happening is our leadership was getting burnt out, right? We weren't putting that emphasis on them like we should have. And so during this April training, I had shown a meter of the different stages of burnout all the way through. And what we've always been done as an organization here is talking about health and wellness, exercise, eating right, meditation. We had breathing meditation before we started our safety check-in during the pandemic at one point, right? So we did well at that. But a lot of those mechanisms take time. A lot of those interventions take time. And when you are someone that's in chronic burnout, it's not realistic and it almost seems harder to complete or impossible to complete. And so I knew going into April's training, we were at a point that I can't talk about those things. I had to be realistic. I had to share my story and be vulnerable with leadership and how I juggled, the pandemic overall. But I took key things from the Duke University and MHA that talked about key interventions. 3 good things a day for 14 days, sharing that gratitude, different small interventions they can do on a daily basis, only take a couple of minutes, but really change the game when it comes to their overall well-being. And so many leaders after that meeting had thanked me, shared their story with me, had talked to me about it, whether it was a phone call, in person, or email. So it really felt like, we did move the needle a little bit there.
Sure. When you say vulnerable, right away, I'm thinking, oh, she went all Brene Brown on everybody. Right? But it works.
Right.
You share some of yourself, which this is a team. This is your colleagues, a team that's running the hospital with you. You want to make sure that it's a healthy team, right? And so, yeah, that's just wonderful. Now, something that Sue and I encountered, and I actually encountered with people close to me, is that, in the nearly post-pandemic, end of pandemic world, when we were talking about well-being and taking care of yourself first and others second, and that's how you do things, protecting yourself, people are like, don't bring that well-being crap anymore. Like, I don't want to hear it, right? I don't want to hear it. I am way too far gone. Forget about it. Have you had a challenge like that where people are like, oh, Julia, this is just you.
Mm-hmm.
You're always Patty positive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. And that's how I fell into this role. That's how I was the original presenter on this topic during our first leadership training when we first started the journey with you, right? I believe that's how I fell into this role. Because at that time I was a nurse. I was working on the floor of the units and just happened to be on the Compass team. And so fell into that role. And it wasn't until more into the pandemic that I felt like I was more relatable, and it wasn't just me being peppy or a happy-go-lucky person, optimistic. It was, they seen the weight that I was carrying as well. So I was more relatable from that avenue, but it still, I still seen it during the pandemic. You round on the floor and you can feel it. Employees, it's different to see their world, right? You're looking through a different looking glass. And so we do different things to show that we appreciate them. And sometimes that goes really well and sometimes that doesn't. And it really depends on that person. Every person's different. And that's true for well-being as well. Every person's different. Deep breathing exercise is not going to work for one person versus 3 good things is not going to work for the other. So just trying to find what works for that person.
Hilarious story. A lot of times when I get invited into an organization to speak, I will volunteer to do the resiliency pause.
Mm-hmm.
And I like yoga. So I will just like, okay, I don't even call it that. I'm like, okay, everybody stand up, do this, And I'll never forget one time at the back of the room, a CEO he's in eagle pose. He doesn't even realize it. And he's yelling at me, this better not be yoga. I don't do yoga. I'm like, okay. Just do a little stretching. Don't worry about it. Yeah, people are so resistant. Like, I don't want that fluffy stuff. Get it away from me.
Yeah.
So I think good for you. I think the gift of teaching someone else to care for themselves and to take the elephant and just eat it one little bite at a time.
Sure.
Genius. You're a genius.
Well, thanks, Jane.
So you can be a genius too. With Julia, part of our leadership bundle, which we'd love to help you set up your own leadership bundle, can be found on our website, www.capstoneleadership.net. Giant button that says book a call. We would love to talk to you and let you know how you can be Julia too. Thanks, Julia.
Thank you so much.